over the coastal mountain range and sees the San Francisco Bay and discovers it. So there is a historical marker that marks that up on Highway 280 where we live, and I just pulled over and showed it to my kids, and, they walked around in the spot where Portola had walked. And to a kid's mind, it's as if they think their feet is touching the exact spot where this guy's feet touched the ground, and it just brought history alive for us. So I think historical markers are really helpful. I don't think you always have to get out, but if you just stop and read them, sometimes the discussion about that little piece of history will continue for miles afterwards, for a very long time afterwards. And another thing you can do with historical markers is what you do with gravestones. You can take rubbings of them, because usually the letters on historical markers are raised and there's usually a picture. So you could actually get a piece of butcher block paper and a carpenter's crayon and, rub it over it to take the rubbing. Or, getting back to what I told you about aluminum foil before, you can take a sheet of aluminum foil, place it over the marker, and just gently rub over it with a cloth, and it will sort of emboss what's on the historical marker onto the aluminum foil. So you can carry it with you in the car for a short period of time before it really, falls apart and doesn't last too long. But it's just sort of a fun thing to do with historical markers.
You know what I'm going to do from now on, too, Diane, is I'm taking your book off the shelf and I'm going to put it in the car.
That's where it belongs.
It does, because I have this shelf that goes underneath the passenger side front seat, and from now I'm going to put it there, because I'm going to give it to the kids, too, to take a look at while we're driving.
Oh, yeah, if your kids are readers, they'll find, the other thing about the book is it has all these little, we call them From the Information Highway. There are these little sidebars throughout, on almost every page of the book that has fun information that they can just read and tell everybody in the car without doing a game at all. It's just great trivia facts.
I think we should have had this conversation in April before people started their summer holidays.
That would have been nice. It's not too late. I think statistics show most people go in August anyway, so hopefully we're catching the crowd. And, homeschoolers can go any time of year. We're not limited to just traveling during the summer.
That's right. One of the secret advantages to homeschooling.
Yeah, it is a secret advantage, yeah.
Okay, what about geography?
Okay, I think one of the best things you can do is take along an inflatable globe in the car. And I don't know how many people have ever seen these, but it's just a resource I wouldn't be without. And I'll tell you why. I used, when I was with my kids and we'd be listening to books on tape or audiobooks in the car, every time, I got in the habit of every time a character or place was mentioned in a book, I would show my kids or ask them to find on a world globe where that place was located. So that we did so much reading together, as most homeschoolers do, that within a very short period of time, my kids had a really good concept of where other countries and places were located throughout the globe. And inflatable globes are great because you can bring them along in the car. They're made out of plastic. You can blow them up when you need them. When you're not using them, you can deflate them and just stick them underneath the car seat or in the glove compartment. And if people go to my website, Carschooling.com, they'll find, if you go to something called Luggage Rack, again on the menu, and you'll see a list of the chapters. If you go to Geography, there's a list for inflatable globes there in places where you can purchase them.
Well, that's good. And your kids must be better behaved than mine, because I can envision that inflatable ball flying around the car and bonking off the back of my head. How did you control that? So
well, Ben, I would suggest for you to bring an atlas along in the car. I never really had that problem, with my kids throwing stuff up front. So I think I made it really clear. See, we have behavioral expectations. We set them down in the beginning. If any of that had started to happen, I would have started to pull over and it would have ended right there.
Actually, good answer.
Yeah.
Tell the kids we all don't want to die, so let's just take a look at the
That's
globe.
exactly right.
Now, art, of course, is pretty easy, don't you think, in the car?
Oh, yeah, because you can draw, and again, remember using those markers and crayons, marker pens that are for the windows or Post-it notes, kids just really find all kinds of ways to be artistic. Pipe cleaners, I think, are a great tool to bring along in the car because you can make not only really interesting figures and like geodesic domes and things like that with them, you can make numbers and letters and it's all tied into art as well. There's a company called Pioneer Drama and pioneerdrama.com. And Pioneer Drama has their whole point is to create plays and one-act scenes and things like that for schools. So they carry everything from melodrama-type plays productions to Shakespeare, and you can purchase from them these scenes, and then your kids can act out these dramatic scenes in the car. So that's kind of a fun thing to do. I've heard
like
an awful lot.
Theater.
Pardon me?
Like a reader's theater where they're kind of reading through
Exactly, yeah.
I love that.
And I've heard an awful lot of people say that their kids have memorized their parts for plays and things while they were in the car because, you know, if you have two kids and they can both read, they can play the parts back and forth, and it just turns into a really entertaining exercise. I've had people tell me that they've recorded their kids doing that and then would give the recordings to their grandparents, you know, send them to them so that they could listen to the kids and hear what they're doing, and that really was a lovely way to share what they do during their homeschool day.
My girls would absolutely love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, particularly adding sound effects.
Oh, yeah. There's so many fun things you could do with that.
Now,
and, you know, you can always make costumes out of the aluminum foil in the car, too, you know?
And
we do a Viking play, and now we got a little Viking helmet.
What about music? I assume that's pretty easy in the car, too.
I think so. I think especially, you know, with the older kids, they're going to pick the music they want and listen to their, you know, CD players or something in the car. But there's so much. I think it's just a matter of choosing your particular musical taste and sharing the music with everybody in the car. But there's that wonderful Classical Kids. Are you familiar with that program?
Oh, no. In fact, I want to be more familiar with that because I have an 8-year-old daughter who's really talented in music, and I'd like to expose her to more.
Okay, well, there's a Classical Kids series, and it does introduce people of all ages to classical music. Each title in the series is a fictional story that includes real historical information about the composers, so we're talking historical fiction here, little anecdotes about their lives, and samples of their musical work are interspersed throughout the CD or the tape. They also come in videotapes so that you can get them in all three of those media forms. And some of the titles are Beethoven Lives Upstairs, Mr. Bach.
Things about that.
Yeah, it's fabulous. It's fabulous. Mr. Bach Comes to Call, Mozart's Magic Fantasy, Vivaldi's Ring of Mystery. And a lot of these things reveal things about the composers. I mean, you know, really revealing things about their lives that are make them just so much more interesting. Like, you know, the fact that Beethoven didn't bathe very often, and so things like that really bring them to life and make them seem like, you know, real human beings instead of just these incredible geniuses that you know that you wouldn't have anything in common with or that you wouldn't relate to.
Is that classicalkids.com?
They're available at Amazon.com. I don't know. I don't think there's a classicalkids.com. I could be mistaken about that, but I do know you can get them at
Amazon.com, and then in the search box put in
Classical Kids. Right. Or you can put in the individual titles.
These suggestions you're giving, Diane, are, of course, fabulous, not just for car schooling when you're in the car, but for homeschooling in general.
Absolutely true. In fact, I've told a lot of people you don't have to, you know, for those people that don't like to travel in the car very often when they're kids or they don't have any reason to, you know, they could, if it makes them feel better, they could take the book and go out and sit in their car, even if it's up on blocks in the driveway, you know, and they could still enjoy the activities. A lot of the things in the book you could actually do like when you're standing in line, and you could certainly use them on any mode of transportation, you know, from a taxi to a bus to an airplane, and use them to entertain the kids there as well. But I also think it's a great book it was written from a homeschooler's heart, remember. So these were things that I enjoyed doing with my children and that often saved the day when I was having one of those homeschool desperation days where I really thought, oh my gosh, we haven't done a thing. I'm desperate. I need to feel like we've learned something. This is a book that you could pick up, choose one thing out of, you know, with the kids, and it would make you feel like you'd accomplished something educational that day. So you're right. It's really good for that.
Love it. Okay, two last categories. I know you must be getting tired. Your brain must be getting tired, but this information is so great. What about foreign languages?
So I think foreign languages, I think that's one of the most difficult subjects to teach. But fortunately, when you're in the car, you can you certainly utilize all of the different foreign language programs that are out there. And the problem for me with foreign language programs is that I have tried tons of them, but for each family and each individual person, the manner and the style in which the program is given is going to affect you differently. So it's really hard to make recommendations. What I did was I assembled a list, and it's in the book, and I'm sorry to have to refer people to the book, but that's where it is, and you can get the book at the library, so you don't have to go purchase it. But foreign languages, I asked all of these car schooling parents to give me their recommendations for the best foreign language programs they had used with their children, And when I listed the programs in the book, I included these parents' comments so that other parents reading their comments can go, you know, that sounds like our family. That